All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. So if you've been trying to lose belly fat, boost your energy, and feel like yourself again, but feel like nothing is working, this episode's for you. And matter of fact, this entire channel and all that I do is for you. Guys, I've been on and I'm on a mission to help women, specifically in midlife, like perimenopause and menopause, burn fat, boost their energy, figure things out, right? Because I've worked with so many women who have struggled year over year. They feel like they're broken. They've been told that they're just getting older. They've tried diets. They've tried exercise plans. They've tried intermittent fasting. You name it. Most likely you've tried it if you're listening to this right now and you just want answers. You want to understand what's going on. How can I take control of my life and do something about it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I've been working with 6 clients right now, doing labs, building custom protocols, and getting down to what's happening underneath the surface, right? What are these hidden stressors and hidden things that are causing you to feel like this, whether it be symptoms, whether it be low energy, poor sleep, low libido, be in pain, holding on to stubborn belly fat, all of the above, right? Why are these things happening and how can we figure out what's going on and why? And not only that, but figure out a plan to help you move in the direction of healing, move in the direction of taking back control of your life. Because as someone in the health and fitness field, I believe that it's not just dependability on others, right? Not just, oh, I need to work with a coach and take this pill or do this diet, right? It's all about learning and understanding your body in a deep intuitive level so that, yes, you can get coaching, you can learn from others, but in the process of that, helping you understand what your body needs and knowing that on a deep subconscious level of what your body needs to be at its best self, right? So the big problem that I see in life, not in life, that's a general statement. The big problem that I see in this health field is that we have been basing our progress and what we're trying to do off of traditional fat loss advice. And that fails us, right? The traditional baseline is that we need to move more and eat less. And there's been a lot of different studies, a lot of different podcasts, and a lot of people talk about this. And hopefully, we're getting to the point where it's not so black and white. Yes, in general, I think humans need to move as a priority in their daily life. I think that we need to pay attention to what we're eating so that we're eating more natural whole foods. I get that. But the simplicity of eat less, move more doesn't always serve us, especially if you are a female in your midlife in those peri and postmenopausal phases, because there's way more complexity to your health and your body and the way your body functions than simply saying eat less and move more. So in this phase of your life, right, there are hormonal shifts happening. There are years and years of maybe chronic stress that have happened on your body. So your body becomes more sensitive to stress and less responsive to deprivation, right? We can't always just say we're going to starve ourselves or eat at this calorie deficit in an extreme way and expect our body to be okay with that, right? Your body needs to feel loved and nourished and healed in order for it to operate properly. So a lot of the key problems that at least the women that I am working with and that I talk to on a pretty frequent basis are dealing with are dysregulated cortisol patterns, which means cortisol should follow a diurnal pattern where it's highest in the morning and then decreases throughout the day. What I'm seeing is a lot of dysregulation in that pattern. I'm seeing a lot of blood sugar imbalances, leading us to feel like lightheaded and crash throughout the day and feel like we have cravings for different foods. I'm seeing a lot of poor sleep and low recovery, right? Not only are these women not getting a solid amount of hours in bed, but they're not recovering, which means their body, while it's in bed, maybe you're unconscious, but you're not getting deep sleep. And quality sleep is when our body goes and restores our muscles and heals muscles and restores all of our body's energy and detoxes and burns fat and does a lot of things while we're sleeping. So if that's not happening, your recovery is going to, not be as good, right? I'm seeing a lot of inflammation and gut issues as well. So if that's the case, if all of these things are happening, we can't necessarily solve that with just eating less and moving more. Because if you have a blood sugar imbalance and you're eating less, that's going to further exacerbate the problem, right? You're not going to make things better. You're going to make things worse. And you're going to wonder why you're feeling lightheaded and you're having all these experiences, right? If we have a dysregulated cortisol and we really need to allow our adrenal glands to heal, which the adrenal glands are what produce and secrete cortisol into the body, which is a normal thing. Your body needs cortisol. It should respond to stress in that way. That's a normal thing. I'm not, mystifying or demonizing cortisol. That's good. But what happens is if our adrenal glands are totally stressed out from chronic levels of cortisol, well, then guess what? Doing high intensity workout and long cardio all the time, again, I'm not saying those are bad things sometimes, but if we're doing that all the time, you're further making the adrenals more exhausted and not getting to healing the body and giving it what it needs. So really, these issues are invisible to us. You might be experiencing them, but if you're not learning about the body and understanding what the triggers and clues are to understanding what these problems are, they're invisible if you're not testing. And that's why I, in my program and in my learnings, have come to the point of it's really hard to give someone advice if you don't do a test, if you don't actually know what's going on under the hood, so to speak, because you could be you're throwing it, a guess at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that becomes frustrating. And most of the women that I work with have been on that cycle of trial and error and are frustrated, right? Try a diet, can't lose weight, it's not sustainable. You do a workout plan, you're beating your body up, but yet you're not moving the needle there either. And now you're just becoming sore and tired. So not only are you trying your best and, physically exhausting your body and your mind, but you feel like, is this even moving me in the right direction? And I'll tell you what, I think I talk a lot about mental toughness and discipline and habits, and those are all important. But can you imagine if you have a goal and it's to lose weight, and you know that these 4 steps or these habits, if you just do them over the course of time, it might take a couple months or a couple years, but you will get there. That is a lot more motivating to understand that, hey, I'm going to stay on the track even if things get tough because I know that these are the right things. That allows you to have your discipline. Whereas sometimes, people will be guessing, right? They're just trying things and they don't know. Well, how are you supposed to be disciplined and consistent if you don't even understand that the actions that you're doing are even leading you towards anything? So that leaves you to even more frustration, right? So I'm just trying to meet you where you're at and understand that you're not crazy, you're not broken. It's just that we haven't known these things and we've been trying things without real hardcore data to you, the person. And that's what's important. You are an individual. You are unlike any other woman or person on the planet. And until we understand what your body needs and how your body responds to certain things, then it's really hard to understand what are the core steps that are going to lead us in the right direction. So, like I said, I am working with women at the moment and we are running labs. I run a different panel of labs, right? We run a lab that tests your hormone levels, things like your cortisol, your testosterone, progesterone, estrogen. The hormone panel, I run a stool test. We run a mucosal barrier assessment, and that assessment basically looks at the integrity of our gut lining and understanding how well we're absorbing nutrients in different foods. So we run a bunch of different labs to get a full look at what's going on for you, the individual. Now, what am I seeing in these labs? So everyone is different, like I said, and everyone always has different results, but we start to see different trends and patterns, right? So one thing that I see in a lot of women is a low or dysregulated cortisol rhythm. So like I said before, the natural cortisol pattern is that it's highest at about 30 minutes after you wake up, and then it slowly decreases throughout the day until it's at its lowest at nighttime, which allows you to get to sleep. Now, that can be dysregulated in the sense where it's high, your cortisol is high when it shouldn't be high, it's low when it shouldn't be low. There's some discorrelation to the natural rhythm, right? So that's the dysregulated cortisol pattern, or low, which is where if we have a high point in the morning and it slowly gets low. Some people, their cortisol pattern is just low across the board. It's almost flatline throughout the day. And you might be saying, well, I heard that, cortisol is the stress response. It's the stress hormone, and it's high when you're under stress. Well, what we're understanding now is that in order to produce cortisol, it goes through the HPA axis in your body. So that's the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. So basically, the brain signals these glands to secrete cortisol in response to stress on the body, whether it's you getting punched, someone cutting you off, whatever it is. When stress happens, cortisol is secreted. Well, this HPA axis, if it's been doing that at a high level for 5, 10, 20 years, so this chronic stress, maybe you're in a stressful job, you're stressed out with your home life, you are just, eating foods that have a lot of different chemicals and seed oils and things in them. That's stress on the body. So if that happens at a chronic low-grade level for 20 years, your pituitary gland, your HPA axis, is not able to function properly. It's exhausted, quote unquote, right? So if that's not operating properly, well, then when your body needs to use cortisol, right, when it needs to secrete that cortisol to respond to stress, it's not able to do so at an appropriate manner. So now, when in the morning, when you should have a high amount of cortisol to wake you up and to give you energy for the day, you're waking up exhausted and your cortisol is probably tanked, right? In the middle of the day when you're, working hard and you want to be focused, but you can't keep your eyes open. That's because your cortisol is super low. And now you're drinking, 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day just to try to get by. And then you have a crash in the afternoon. And by nighttime, you can't keep your eyes open, right? You sit down on the couch and you're zonked. That happens as well, right? So that's another thing that I see. Something else that I see is estrogen and progesterone imbalances. So these are your two sex hormones that they need to be in balance to operate properly. And when they're imbalanced, and what we see a lot of times is that in peri and postmenopause, we see a drop in estrogen and a huge drop and almost an elimination of progesterone. So that again becomes an imbalance. And even though estrogen is low on the grand scheme of things, the proportion to progesterone is high, right? So not only do we have estrogen, we have progesterone, and we have the ratio between the two, and we want that to be in a pretty solid ratio. So when that's off, we get what's called estrogen dominance, and that can lead to things like mood swings and weight gain, especially in the midsection. Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show. Now, another thing that I see a lot is through the stool testing that we do, right? We do a pretty deep dive into, looking at parasites, good bacteria, bad bacteria, viruses, all that's going on in your gut, right? And there are a lot of things happening, right? So rightfully so, we need bacteria in the gut to thrive, but there could be a dysbiosis in the gut, which, if we have parasites, that's going to lead to poor digestion. It's going to lead to fatigue, cravings, and, just disruption, right? You might get bloating in the gut when you eat. You might have diarrhea. You might have constipation. If you're experiencing some of these symptoms, well, odds are there's a dysbiosis or an imbalance in the gut, right? So that's why we take a look in there, because guess what? Majority of your immune system is in the gut. So if that's so important, and we have our second brain is in our gut, right? Our gut and our brain are constantly in communication with the level of our health, our immune system's in our gut. There's so much importance backing our health in our gut. That's why we want to take a deep dive. So a lot of times what I'm seeing in the labs is some dysbiosis, and what's called leaky gut is that the cell walls of your gut are permeable. So they're allowing things to pass through, which means bad things are entering the gut that shouldn't be there. And also, if you're eating those good nutrients, they're also not staying in the gut because they're just able to pass through the gut wall lining. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing in the labs. Now, when we collect this data, we need to be able to customize it, right? Because like I said, you're an individual. We need to know what this means. And the biggest part for me in doing these lab tests is not just to look at numbers on a piece of paper. It's to be able to look at that number and correlate it back to you, the individual. So we understand maybe some of the symptoms that you're experiencing, the severity of how severe they are, right? If it's very severe or just low grade, and we understand all of that. We also understand what your goals are, what your desires are. We also understand what your mindset is towards these things. So we need that information to then take the data and create a protocol for you. Because if I were to just look at data and say that, oh, you have gut dysbiosis or your cortisol is dysregulated, and I don't know if you're a male or female, I don't know what age you are, I don't know what your occupation is, what your home life is, how am I going to create a proper protocol for you to adhere to improve that situation? We can't, right? It's not just throwing drugs at numbers on data. It is looking at you, the individual, and feeling how we can adjust our lifestyle to then get back on track, right? So that we heal everything at once, and then your symptoms start to improve. You start to acknowledge that. You know what works for you and what doesn't. And you also know intuitively what your body needs. So it's a win-win-win, right? You learn what the problem is. You learn how to affect it for the positive. And you also learn what your body needs so that you can do this and become the best doctor for yourself. So what I do for that is we have what's called a DRESS protocol. Now, DRESS is an acronym. It stands for diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. This kind of covers all of our bases. So the first step is we look at those labs and we find out what are all the hidden stressors. What are all the things that we don't understand and we can't see until we get data back, right? Now that we have that in plain sight and we can analyze it and correlate it to you, the person, we put together this protocol so that instead of trying to silo out one individual thing, oh, you have leaky gut, or oh, you have constipation, or oh, you have can't speak today. That's a tongue twister, dysregulation. Anyway, instead of siloing those out and trying to create a protocol or heal that one thing, we have to do it all at once. Because, and I'll explain this, if there is a dysbiosis in your gut, it could be the cause and the effect of your hormones being dysregulated. So we would be wrong to try to tackle that one problem as is. We need to do everything holistically at the same time. And that's what the DRESS protocol does. So for diet, right, we figure out through a test that we do for your food sensitivities what foods cause a reaction to you and what foods don't. So simply, we take away the ones that have an inflammatory response to you, the person. That helps lower some stress, right? And we talk a little bit more in depth about diet. Sticking to whole foods, prioritizing, protein and fiber and things like that. Then when we go to rest, we need to figure out what's going on with your adrenal glands. If you have had that chronic low-grade stress for a long time, chances are is your adrenal glands are not producing cortisol properly, right? They are not secreting the right amount of cortisol at the right times of the day. So we need to heal that. And rest, when we come into play with that, it's like, all right, what's your wind down routine? What does your morning look like? Are we prioritizing our sanctuary of our room to be in an optimal space for sleep, right? We can't just willy-nilly fall asleep at night and expect it to be amazing, right? We need to plan. We need to have a structured schedule surrounding our recovery, right? Do we have 5 minutes in the middle of the day to just take some deep breaths, go for a little walk, right, and decompress? So we talk about that. For exercise, we need to know that exercise is imperative for your health, but we can't over-exercise, right? There's I love that there's fitness studios, there's access to gyms and access to apps with workout routines on there. So really there's not a barrier for the exercise, but it's understanding at what state is your body in to handle the stress load of exercise. Maybe you're someone who needs to do some strength training to maintain muscle mass and to build strength and resilience in your joints. Maybe you're someone who runs all the time and you need to back off, right? Maybe you're just pounding the pavement and stressing your body out too much, and we need to adjust that and do more restorative work like yoga, mobility, and stretching, and maybe some strength training. Now, anyone who is a human being can most likely benefit by walking a good bit every day. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly how many, I'm not going to say you need to do 10,000 steps or not. I just mean as a human being, whether your adrenal glands are stressed or you're overweight or you're trying to put on weight, everyone can benefit from walking. Aside from that, I'm saying what type of exercise, whether it be resistance training or maybe you need to dial back on the hardcore cardio, that's what we dial in because everyone should be walking no matter what. Then for stress reduction, kind of goes hand in hand with your rest. So rest, we really worry about how well are you recovering, how well are you sleeping. With stress reduction, how can we look at our schedule, our lifestyle, and our environment and put that and readjust it in a way that's going to benefit our ability to handle stress, right? Like if you're someone who's A-type personality and you're go, go, go and you're working hard, can we put boundaries around work where we're still productive, we're still hitting our numbers, and we're still doing what we need to do while on the job, but also we have time for ourselves. We have time to go be with in nature or be with your family or take a calming, relaxing bath, right? We need to have that stress reduction so that you're in control and it doesn't control you. And then lastly is supplements. Now, I understand that, supplements are not a drug. They're not a cure-all. They're not a, hey, take this supplement and your life is better. But a couple things surrounding supplements are that, number one, our food. Our food is not as nutrient dense as it once was. So we are deficient in even the healthy foods that we're eating. So supplements can come in and fill the gaps of the nutrient deficiencies that we have. Secondly, we get a good look at your internal levels. When we run a stress and hormones profile, we know if your adrenal glands are stressed or not and what type of health they are, right? How healthy are they? If they are chronically stressed out, there are supplements that can come in and rejuvenate those adrenal glands and help them working properly and be the spark plug, get the minerals back in the body, the nutrients that we need. So supplements can help in that way. And another big way that I see supplements being hugely beneficial is if we take a look at your gut and there is a parasite, a virus, or a yeast overgrowth, anything that shouldn't be happening in there, there are professional grade quality supplements that help detox those things from your body. And we put together a protocol that we can safely eliminate those things from your body and heal your gut so that your body can go and heal the rest of it, right? Like if our gut's happy, likely the rest of our body is happy, right? We're not dealing with constipation or diarrhea or bloating or chronic pain down there or IBS. We've healed those things, and now your immune system will improve because if your immune system isn't fighting those infections and parasites and things in your gut, well, then it can go focus on other things. So the gut really has a snowball effect to improve the rest of our body when we heal that. And supplements play a major role in that. So not always can we just eat certain food and detox, things out of our gut. We need a little support. So that's where the supplements come into play, is they are supporting us in healing our gut as well. So that's kind of the framework that I go off of. But the question is why am I doing this? Like you might say, well, you're a 30-year-old man. Why is this even important to you? And yes, I understand that I am younger than a lot of the women that I work with. I will never give birth. I will never go through menopause. I will never experience some of the things that these women will. And that to me is okay. I've come to the conclusion that I am okay with that scenario, and I still want to help. And the reason being is for, 8 years, I've been working with primarily women, whether it's in the personal training, field, or in the group training, or now on the online coaching, I've worked with primarily women in peri and postmenopause. That's why I came up with this target group of people. It's not because I just thought it was cool, I thought it was trendy. It's no, for the past 8 years of my life, I've been working with women in this area and have had very detailed conversations. I've had women cry to me. I've had women be so frustrated and not understand. And as someone who cares to my core about the quality of my clients and my friends and the women in my lives, health and the quality of their life, I took it upon myself to learn more. So I'm here on a mission to try and solve these problems. I know it's not a snap your finger and here's the way to do it, but little by little, day by day, year by year, we learn more about what's going on with women's health and women in peri and postmenopause. We can figure out, okay, typically this is what's going on. This is what we need to look into as far as your labs. And this is some, steps in that stress protocol that you can take to get back to living your life, to not have to deal with chronic bloating every time you eat, fatigue every morning that you wake up, you're not refreshed, you lay in bed and you're wired but tired, you sleep terribly, right? You have no libido. There's all these things that are taking away from these women's living their best life, right? We're all here on this planet for a short amount of time, and we want to enjoy when we're here. We want to optimize our experience and be able to be present and not have to think about all of these symptoms that we're dealing with on a daily basis. It's exhausting. And so I've seen so many women deal with this and be so frustrated and fed up with their current state of health and their life that I took it upon myself to try to do something about it. So if you feel like your body's fighting against you, just know that you're not broken. You're just under supported right now. So I invite you, please subscribe to the show. We talk about this stuff on a weekly basis. On Instagram, we talk about it even more frequently. So I'm here on the podcast. I'm on Instagram, on TikTok a little bit. And my goal is just to provide value so that you can take tips from here, take knowledge, and apply it to your life directly. And understand that if you do little bits over time, and I encourage you eventually to get some type of testing done so that you're not just guessing, but start to take these small steps, start to know and be empowered and encouraged that you're not broken and you don't have to live this way. You don't have to feel so frustrated all the time and in pain and bloated and dealing with those things. It can be fixed. You aren't broken and you can heal your body. So guys, I thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Remember, subscribe to the show, share the show with a friend. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.